For over 1,000 years, one city refused every conqueror. Kings dreamed of it, armies surrounded it. Still, Constantinople endured.
It wasn't the largest city on earth, it wasn't the richest kingdom, yet one narrow waterway made Constantinople the most valuable city in the medieval world. Every ship carrying silk, spices, or precious goods faced the same choice: pass through Constantinople or lose access to entire markets. One obstacle: the Theodosian Walls, triple layers of stone that defeated emperors, sultans, and countless sieges for centuries. Before an enemy could even touch the walls, another deadly barrier stood ahead. A massive moat turned every attack into a slow, exhausting struggle. Crossing the moat solved nothing. Hundreds of defenders watched from above, raining arrows, stones, and burning projectiles onto exhausted attackers below. Every tower became a battlefield of its own. From sunrise to sunset, vigilant defenders watched every movement, leaving attackers nowhere to hide. Inside the city, one man refused to surrender. Emperor Constantine XI prepared to defend Constantinople until his final breath.
Across the walls stood an unexpected rival. Sultan Mehmed II was only 21 years old, but he believed history had chosen him.
Mehmed needed more than courage. He needed a weapon powerful enough to break walls that had stood unchallenged for 1,000 years. The cannon was unlike anything Europe had ever seen. Forged from bronze, weighing tons, it wasn't built to frighten the city, it was built to erase it. Building it was only the beginning. Moving this giant across rough ground would become a battle before the battle even began. Nearly 60 oxen, hundreds of men, every kilometer demanded relentless effort. And Constantinople was still waiting. The journey became a military operation. Every bridge was reinforced, every hill was reshaped. Nothing was left to chance. After weeks of relentless effort, the impossible stood outside Constantinople. Now, the city would face the greatest cannon ever built. For the first time in centuries, Constantinople's legendary walls were no longer untouchable. Everything was about to change. For over 1,000 years, these walls had defeated every army. Mehmed believed his cannon would become the first exception. But even the greatest cannon had one terrifying question. Would it survive its own first shot? Engineers checked every bolt, every ring, every crack. If the cannon failed now, the entire campaign could collapse. At dawn, every eye turned toward one target. The walls had never faced a weapon like this. In seconds, history would be tested. The order echoed across the valley. Fire! Thousands held their breath. Even Mehmed didn't know what would happen next. The earth exploded beneath their feet. The sound rolled for miles, and the walls had finally met their greatest enemy. The walls didn't fall, but for the first time in 1,000 years, they cracked. That single crack changed everything.
The defenders couldn't believe their eyes. The walls were still standing, but the myth protecting them had just begun to crumble.
One shot wasn't enough. Mehmed didn't need one miracle. He needed relentless pressure. The cannon didn't fire again. It couldn't. The barrel was glowing, and every minute gave Constantinople another chance. Every hour the cannon rested, the Byzantines worked. Through the darkness, they erased the damage stone by stone. By sunrise, the impossible had happened. The breach was gone. It was as if the cannon had never fired.
Morning arrived. The repaired wall looked untouched, until the Ottoman engineers began measuring it again.
The repairs were finished, but the Ottomans had already found something even more dangerous: the wall's weakest point. The next shot wasn't stronger, it was smarter. This time, they aimed where the wall was already dying.
The order was given. The order was given. Not to fire everywhere, only once. Only here.
They fired. This time, the wall didn't resist. One crack became many. The wall wasn't collapsing yet, but it was no longer one wall. The opening was coming. Then, the first stones gave way. Not the entire wall, just enough to change everything. The breach was still small, but to Mehmed, it was already enough. Within moments, every Ottoman commander knew exactly where to attack. Everyone knew. The assault began. Not across the entire wall, only toward the opening.
The first assault wave rushed toward the breach, and Constantinople answered immediately.
Again and again the attackers came. And every time, the defenders forced them back.
Every attack was stopped, but every defense cost precious men, time, and strength. The walls were still standing, but the defenders were reaching their limit.
Then, the Ottomans noticed something. The arrows were fewer. The wall was growing quieter.
Mehmed didn't order a final assault, yet. First, he wanted absolute certainty. The reports matched. Every commander saw the same weakness. Mehmed raised his hand, Mol. The final assault was ready. Then the battlefield erupted. Every assault column moved at once toward one single breach. The first Ottoman soldiers reached the opening, but behind the broken wall, another wall was waiting.
The breach became a battlefield of only a few meters, where every step was paid for in blood.
Minute after minute, the balance began to shift. The defenders were still fighting, but they were slowly losing control. At sunrise, the final assault began. Every Ottoman soldier had only one destination. The breach had become the center of the entire battle. Every decision now led to this single point. The defenders rushed to seal the opening, but every replacement made the passage even more crowded. The fighting became so intense that the breach disappeared beneath dust, smoke, and men. For nearly 2 months, every Ottoman attack had stopped here. Today, that would change. Then the order finally came. Every assault column moved at once. A single command echoed across the battlefield. No retreat. Every soldier moved forward. Wave after wave, fresh Ottoman troops poured toward the breach, refusing to slow, refusing to stop. The Byzantine defenders were no longer holding a wall. They were fighting for every single step. The narrow breach had become a deadly funnel. More soldiers entered, but fewer ever came back out. The Byzantine line finally broke. For the first time, Ottoman soldiers crossed the breach in large numbers.
Mehmed made one decision: keep sending fresh troops until the defenders collapsed from exhaustion. The defenders fell back from one street to the next. Every intersection became a new battlefield. With every passing minute, more districts slipped from Byzantine control. The city was slowly falling apart. One by one, Constantinople's greatest landmarks disappeared behind Ottoman lines.
By sunrise, the battle was no longer outside Constantinople. The battle had become Constantinople itself.
The Byzantine command structure collapsed. Small groups fought alone, with no orders, no reinforcements, and no way back.
The breakthrough was complete. Ottoman forces were now pouring into Constantinople from multiple directions.
Within minutes, every report arriving at headquarters carried the same message. The city could no longer be defended. Inside the city, there was no longer a coordinated defense. Every commander fought his own battle. The Ottoman advance accelerated. Entire defensive sectors disappeared one after another. The breach was no longer a battlefield. It had become an unstoppable river of soldiers. The city's defenses did not collapse all at once. They collapsed like falling dominoes. After 53 days, Constantinople had finally reached its breaking point. Sultan Mehmed II entered Constantinople, not as a conqueror celebrating victory, but as the ruler of a new empire. His destination was not the palace, nor the battlefield. Mehmed rode directly toward the greatest building in the city, Hagia Sophia.
Mehmed dismounted, walked across the silent courtyard, and entered Hagia Sophia.
As the first light across Constantinople, for the first time in more than 11 centuries, the Roman Empire was gone. But empires do not truly die, they become history, and history never stops speaking.